friends. Welcome to Woman-Owned Wallet, the podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Dare, a serial entrepreneur who has already made all of the money mistakes, so you don't have to. Now I'm working on my money mindset, expanding my companies, and having open conversations with women around a subject that shouldn't be so taboo: money. My company, Woman-Owned Wallet, and I are determined to help you foster a more positive relationship with your wallet and help you create a life that makes you say, wow. Oh, you're just looking at me so adoringly, and I'm really into it. Really, really into it. So let's just kick this off, though. Welcome to the Woman-Owned Wallet podcast. Amanda Dare here. Super, super, duper excited to welcome my literal best friend. I know.
Yes, me.
Oh.
Yes, me.
We watched a little too much Schitt's Creek recently, and just like Alexis Rose vibes happening.
All right, Moira Rose. Yeah, to have Herlinger's fruit wine. Herb Erdlinger.
Man,
fruit wine.
You're so much better at accents and voices than I am. I'm terrible with it.
I watch a lot of TV and movies.
You do. You're really into it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's just give everybody a basic understanding of how you operate, who you are, what's going on, because I feel like we've been talking about this a little bit, but there are just never two best friends that have the same aesthetic. And I really believe that Amanda Dawn and Amanda Dare live that life. We live that life.
We do live that life. if you could see us right now in the studio, you were wearing all pink.
Pink
eyeshadow,
shirt.
a Aries necklace. You're very much your brand, and I love it.
And you're very much your brand, and I love it.
Me sitting here in a Mortal Kombat crop top with compression leggings and goth boots.
Yes.
Goth. There you go. Very dark makeup on.
Combined, we're goth Barbie. A little bit. Mm-hmm. Combined.
I don't like to be goth all the time, but I do. I don't even like saying the word goth. I just address alternative. I don't even
you just like having your own thing.
I do.
You're like, you cannot label me.
I've tried to get rid of graphic tees. I can't. I can't get rid of my graphic tees. It's a problem.
I have more of an addiction to. Well, I'm literally wearing an oversized graphic sweatshirt.
Yeah, but I would never wear that.
I know you wouldn't wear this.
And you would never wear what I'm wearing.
I would never wear what you're wearing.
So, what we're saying is that we're two different people.
We're two different people. We've really shared a lot of similar experiences in both being artists and both making money being artists and both really just starting out super undervalued and a collective shared terrible experience.
That's called theater, Amanda. It's called working in theater.
Oh, that's so true.
See? Now if you look at it on a whole, if you step back, you're like, it was the whole industry that killed me.
Oh, that theater degree just never did me any real good.
Oh yeah, you did get that.
I do. Yeah. It's
I'm not laughing at that.
One of my 2 degrees that I don't really use, but have shaped me. Yeah. I really believe that. I'm like, okay, well, my people point that out. I was like, well, you don't have a fashion or business degree. And I'm like, yeah, bitch, I know. But did I learn a shit ton in college?
Neither of us are working on our full-time jobs. What our degrees say.
Yeah. I don't know many people that actually do. I mean, we know a lot of engineers.
I was going to say all of our engineer friends and your husband, and they are all working. All of his friends. They are working in their actual degree.
I'm like, oh, you have a degree in something you're actually doing. You must not be a super... I mean, they're all creative people and amazing people, and we're obsessed with them. But living in this creative industry, solely, you gotta adjust, you gotta pivot, you gotta move around, and you gotta find, how to stabilize your life enough to be able to even be creative in the first place.
At a very young age, I have no idea if I would have gone this route. It would have terrified me. Think about it. If you would have told your younger self you wanted to be an artist and a creative, you're going to have to pivot in so many different ways. It's going to drive you insane and give you anxiety by 25.
Yeah.
I would be like, okay, maybe I'll just go do a good job like engineer or doctor. Never worked out for me.
Didn't they try to make us do that though? And we were just
my parents never did. I was very lucky growing up.
Yeah.
They knew I was going to be an artist at a very young age. And they were like, okay, well, we got to swallow the pill now. She's going to be an artist and a creative. We can't force her doing it in other ways. But they were trying to force me into career path that did give me a salary, aka graphic design. Like all parents are like, you want to do art, graphic design. And I tried and I didn't. I struck out first time. I didn't even make it into the program at U of L. You know what?
But you did get a degree in it.
I did get a degree, a graphic design associate's degree, which I do love. And if I didn't have that, I would not be able to work the job I do now, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
Because I learned Adobe Creative Suite.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And I mean, I learned a lot of like design aspects to know what shit looks good. Oh, wait, can we cuss on this podcast?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Goddamn. Here we go. Yeah. And so from that,
I never got a job without the cursing.
I never got a job with my graphic design degree.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I chunked back into theater.
I know you did. And I remember like all of the different things. So let's bring everybody back a little bit. So
Journey back.
I mean, obviously you can tell not only as Amanda came out to visit me in LA and we're actually like in a legit podcast studio for like the first time I've ever been on this podcast or hosted this podcast, been on it. But like, you could probably tell like we love each other. We've known each other for, I was trying to think about it, over a decade.
Sophomore year of college. Junior year of college.
I don't even know how old you are then. 20 something?
I mean, right now?
No, we're early 30s now, but it's been over a decade of friendship. And it's just kind of interesting because I remember like when I first like learned about you, like I've always been impressed by you. Entire
I'm impressed by myself sometimes too.
You absolutely should be, bitch. Yes. And I'm very proud of you for that because it's important. It's so important. And I know you're like joking a little bit, but also like you're fucking serious.
Well, the reason I say that is because of the stuff that I'm doing now and where I'm at. I'm like, what? Why? How did you get here?
Right.
Then we get to this point in your life.
Yeah.
Maybe we should introduce me. I just like sit here. I'm like,
okay. So hi. I just want to tell everybody though, like how we really, well, I guess no, let's talk about you first. So
thanks.
Just, they know about me. They know this Amanda. They need to know.
They need to know this other Amanda that's sitting across from you.
Too today.
Yeah. Amanda too. That's how we kind of started back and forth. But yeah, I'm Amanda Dawn. If you want to, I don't go by that at all. But I go by Jedimanda online. We get tagged in pictures all the time. But
yes.
I am I don't know how to go about this because I'm not in a cosplay podcast, which is weird because I always like default to that. But yeah, I'm a cosplayer, content creator, social media full-time manager. Well, no. Okay. So
what's your official title?
My official job is I work for the Speed Art Museum at home. I am a marketing communications coordinator, which means I work in the marketing department, but 99% of my job is the social media management for the museum, which is fantastic. And exactly what I should be doing. And I should have known this earlier, but here I am. But yeah, so I run social media for the Speed Art Museum. And I have been a cosplayer for almost 10 years. Next year's my 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, like I saw your very first cosplays.
Yeah. And so from that, I've been a content creator. And so for those of you who do not know what cosplay is basically people who make or dress up or buy or rent or, borrow costumes, usually from a fandom, and go do a thing or just wear it or do whatever. But it's basically role playing in costume. It's Halloween, y'all. It's Halloween, not on Halloween.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do like a LARP, which is kind of like a live action role playing. People know that term. Some people just dress up in costumes, take photographs. And a lot of people dress up and go to conventions, comic book conventions to be completely correct on that. So that's the community that I'm in. And from that, I have developed the skills that I make my money from. There we go. I was like, I was getting
we're supposed to talk about money.
We were talking about money. I was like, then from that, I got to here we are where I am. So I've built up a brand for myself as Jedimanda Online, which is just me literally being me and making costumes. And I'm sharing the knowledge on how I made the costumes with my audience. And that in short is kind of what I do and what I am, I think. Right?
And you're a published author.
Yeah.
I mean, cosplay I honestly also brought you there.
Yeah, cosplay brought me into, I am a published author. I wrote a book called Creative Cosplay that came out in September of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. But I do have a book and it is available anywhere that books are sold.
We still need to get some for the store. I need to talk to your distributor.
Yes. Please do.
And I still need mine signed, I think.
Okay. But and I'm in the middle of writing book 2. And so that opportunity came from people going to my panels and seeing the knowledge that I have that apparently I'm pretty good at. And then they just kind of headhunted me for a book deal. And I was like, oh my God, I can't write. I can't. I got C's in college. I am not good. I'm an artist. I went to college for painting. I visually draw and paint my feelings. I don't word. But
words are hard.
Words are so hard. But being able to write out of my head with the knowledge that I had for the book, it worked out. I had a really great editor and like a acquisitions editor that helped me out a lot.
I'm sure that's incredibly important and valuable.
There was no way I could have written a book without them. Honestly, seriously. And I told them no at the beginning. I was like, I've never written a book. I can barely write an essay. I have traumatized past from MLA citation and 131 format. Like I cannot. But they did it. They helped me out on stages. We worked it out. And it actually was really fun to write. The second book has not been as fun to write because it's been during this year and I just am out of things to write about. But the first book was a lot of fun to write because I also wrote it during the summer of 2019 when there was no panorama.
Right. Before everything.
Yeah, before everything. So it was different. But
it's mostly like learning how to have the skills that can create the cosplays. Like you're showing people the whole, because you make all of your cosplays. You've talked about people like borrowing them or renting or buying, but
I am the maker.
Everything.
I am in the maker route. And with cosplay, there's a lot of people that don't make their costumes. There's a lot of people that do. And I would say it's a good, maybe 80% make, 20% don't. But the 80% make are like in the community. And those are the people that follow my stuff. And I wanted to help them out by a book. And I also do, like I said, content creation. I have a YouTube channel. I have all kinds of different ways you can follow me and making my things. But being able to have a book and for them to buy it and follow it that way. And the book it's very beginner level. It's, hey, here's what sewing is. What is cosplay? But I also talk about like the psychology of cosplay, costume contests, what a convention is, and like wigs. Like there's other things in there besides just sewing, but it is based around sewing. So that's another connection we have.
Absolutely.
Sewing.
Yeah. So now that they kind of understand a little bit more about who your beautiful soul is,
thank you.
You're so welcome. Amanda and I, like I was trying to get started saying before, is that like I've always been impressed by her. Like I didn't understand what I wanted to do for a very long time. And even through college.
Creatives, man.
Oh, it's so hard to like figure out everything. But I feel like when I started to understand, because I went from being a music performer to thinking maybe I would switch to music therapy or music education. And then I moved into, I had more of like a musical theater voice. So I switched to theater and I switched my major 8 times in college.
Wow.
I don't think anybody knows that.
But Owen Wilson. Wow.
Yours is just better than mine.
A lot of movies and TV.
So much. But definitely like going from that to like musical theater and then trying that performance route and then having like serious anxiety issues with that.
But that's got you into the theater program at U of L.
It got me into the theater like arena. And then I met like amazing people at University of Louisville, which we both still live in Louisville. Go Cards is definitely like when I met them and I was like, you know what? I was always kind of jealous that my older brother, he has a BFA as well. And he always had like tangible art that he could show people. Yeah. And at the time, like there wasn't as much video and photo, like it just was not the same as what we have available.
We're talking between the years of like 2007 to 2012. Yeah, I
was 5 years.
I was going to say, yeah, we both went into college around 07 and we graduated 2011, 2012. So that's kind of where we're at.
I did get a second degree for the extra year. So that is good. But again,
so that led you to theater.
Led me to theater. And then once I was like realizing that like performance was not as easy to share. And I was like feeling these feelings of like, I want to have something I can like keep. That is my like creative expression. I moved more into like costuming. I really enjoyed makeup in college as well. And wanted
makeup class.
I know, exactly. I'm like, oh, can we have more of this? Any like the 1 or 2 sewing classes that were available. Yeah. Like there's just so much that goes into it. And so I tried to start creating like independent studies with the costume designer and the costume shop manager at the time were so incredibly supportive. So I started to kind of head that route. But then I like graduated after also getting a degree in sign language interpreting. And I had both of these like kind of performance still with some tangibility. And I was like, I can either go down this route of having like a tangible creative business or more of a performative one. And in my life now...
And also like human services, because interpreting is kind of, I wouldn't say social work. Would you say it's social work?
No, not exactly. It's more about culture and like working through like just people knowing a different language and a different culture and understanding that. And like we've been talking about a lot, people interest me so much. Like their like culture interests me. Yeah. And I think that it's like, it's a little bit more about the culture and helping two people understand each other and communication, which I'm really into, obviously, that I feel like that's why I was really drawn to it and like loved it. And I really loved deaf culture as well. So it was just kind of an interesting like time, but I was like, okay, I can either learn to like, I kind of needed to like perfect. Like,
oh, totally.
I was not in a like I had not perfected any of my skills.
Yeah. And I was like, college. None of us did.
Nobody does.
No one does.
They kind of like lead you before college to be like, oh, once you graduate college, you'll be like ready to enter the world. And I'm like, bitch, no.
I really hope that mindset changes for future generations.
I think it already is. I feel like it's definitely
because
shifting.
We had such a mindset of we're going to college, we're going to get a job right after, and our life is perfect. Here we go. Why pick a fence? And oh Lord, it does not, because we went in during a recession. Yeah. And this is not
2008
has not been peachy keen. But that put you into the costume shop.
Yes.
Now how did I get to the costume shop? And then we'll talk about voices.
Yeah, I don't remember how you got to the costume shop.
Because it's really weird how I got to the costume shop. Yeah, I don't know if you know this.
I don't know.
I don't know if you know this. So like when I was in my route through college was painting. I was a portrait painter. I wanted to be a painter. Why that decided to be in my head at that time, it doesn't matter. I was an artist. And then, but my subject matter was women in clothing.
Oh, yeah.
And my mentor was like, hey, why don't you make what the models are wearing? And I was like, that's cool. I've always liked costuming and Halloween. I'm a big old nerd. And I was like, let's put them in some cooler stuff because the models were arriving in stuff that I didn't like to paint or just be naked. And so she suggested I take Jana's class, sewing class. And I did. And I was like, oh my God, theater and costume design, I think is where I want to go. And so that's how I landed in the costume shop, was actually learning how to sew so I could put models in the outfits so I can paint their outfits.
Right. Like that was the interesting part to you. That was the whole creative process. Well, I have obviously seen a lot of your artwork.
I had no intention to be in the theater program because I did not like theater. I was like, that's fine and cool, whatever. But like, I don't want to act. I don't want to be backstage. Yeah. But then when I started doing it, I was like, okay, I kind of like this hustle. This is fun. But that's how we connected. Was we were in class together.
Sewing 101.
I think it was like sewing techniques.
Sewing techniques.
Yeah.
You're right.
And
that's
patterning. God, that was terrible.
Oh man. Do you still have your binder that we made during that class? I do.
It's gone. I have no idea where that is.
I have like, you had to make like
makeup morgue. I have that.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I have my makeup morgue anymore.
I have that. That's a good reference.
What a weird like term.
It is morgue, but I like it. The makeup and everything. But we just became fast friends from that.
Yeah, I think it was more.
And you were just like, I have a side hustle, and I was like, what's that?
I'm a hustler,
and then all of a sudden,
baby.
I'm stuck.
Yeah. So during my college, I decided to like open my first, first I had a studio space for like Amanda Dare Creations. And I was like really interested in sewing. It was like a different part of Melwood.
I remember it wasn't those back studios. So I was like, you made the headbands out of freaking Threcold. Was it Threcold?
Well, Threcold's where Ryan lived, my husband, but I lived in Hers and
these are
CP,
dorms on campus.
Community Park. Yes, dorms on campus. Yeah, I made my first like creative thing. Like I had my sewing machine in my dorm room when I was an RA and stuff. And luckily I had my own room because I was an RA. So I had a little bit more space, which was really nice. But I was making headbands and headband holders and like selling them to people on the floor.
It's so rad.
So fun. But yeah, so I decided to like open a storefront. Kind of. I mean, it was
a studio space that I think
could be a store.
Was Melwood like open to the public like on the weekends and people would just kind of just all the time?
Yeah.
And then people would just kind of walk through Melwood. Melwood, if you guys don't know, Melwood Art and Entertainment Center, it's just basically this giant, I think was a meat packaging plant.
Yeah. Like processing.
Was empty for years. And then this company came and just reformatted it to studio space, event space, restaurant space. It's huge. It's a really cool layout. But the beginning of Melwood was filled with artists renting their studio space.
Right. Because a lot of it was like a little bit difficult to find you because like it was a little bit of a maze and stuff. And they had set up these things. It really was. But it was a great place to start because my first rent was like $125 or something. And I think I upgraded to the space where we connected and I started to have some of your artwork in the space was maybe like $300.
My artwork was dresses.
Yeah. So, but that was really cool because like the dresses went with the clothing that I was working with. And I was like, wow, they melded. And I was like,
and then you were like, hey, you know how to sew. Can you help me sew some things? And I was like, sure, this sounds like fun. Another bullet point on my resume. Like we talked about earlier before.
Yes. That bullet point is so, we thought those bullet points were the fucking
because
world.
That's what our mentors were telling us.
Yes.
That's what everybody was like, you need to build your resume when you're in college. And that includes unpaid internships. That includes part-time jobs.
Yeah,
that
and you got to pay your
projects,
dues,
you know, because that's what we thought employers wanted to see. What those bullet points of stuff you did.
Yeah, what are all the things you did outside of college?
Oh, I worked with a small business. Here's the business.
Yeah.
And then we started getting in commissions.
Yes. So we took on, I took on and I was like totally overwhelmed and needed help. And so graciously, Amanda came on. I was like, hey, I like need help making these choir outfits.
Did you pay me?
I did pay you. Yeah. Okay. I remember paying you
money,
but not enough because I definitely wasn't being paid enough. And at the time it felt like a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think it was like $2,500 total.
Definitely hoodwinked on, and they provided the fabric.
They provided the fabric.
There was this huge commission for this choir, this local choir of how many?
So there were 25 people and we had to make 3 pieces per person.
Yeah, we were making the choir outfits.
Yeah. The pants, like a tank top, kind of, we called it a shell. And then a duster on top that was like a different fabric that was more glittery. And it was all stretch velvet. And we were like, okay, it's stretchy. Which, I mean, now, of course, I'm obsessed with like bamboo and stretch.
You're like, give me the stretch. But at the time, I didn't have
the full understanding.
The full understanding of everything. And all of these women were different body sizes. And we had to do a lot of fittings. And
it was like custom patterning for each person.
We luckily had theater experience to where we could do sizing and pattern, altering and fittings and understand how to do it and fix it.
Yeah.
But it was just so much more labor we put in besides the cost of the materials and everything.
3 fittings
per person.
Yeah. So that's, 75 fittings.
Yeah.
And some of them worked, spot on. We were ready to go, and we did have the skill set, but we didn't have the experience, the time to really develop that skill set.
So we're saying that we lost out on a lot of money. And we didn't even get the freaking recognition. And I'm still mad about that.
We're still upset, you guys. We're not going to name names. No. It was, there were good parts about it. They were very accepting, cool people. But at the end, nobody was really super happy.
No.
I don't think they were over the moon with us either.
No.
However, we did our best. We never gave up on it. And it literally, through some trauma, bonded us for life.
It did bond us. It did bond us. I mean, we worked so long on those at my house, at your place, at your studio. We did a lot of work. And then we went to their show that we're premiering these at, and they didn't even put our names in the brochure.
They thanked everyone.
Everybody but us.
Not us. It was so sad.
I think also there were a lot of people in that group that understood that they were hoodwinking college-age girls to get shit for cheap.
Some part of me really does believe that they, they knew that too. But like I said, I don't think anybody was super happy at the end. I think we made it work. I think we did a great job. And the best thing I got out of it was a best friend.
Yeah.
So.
And also, we got experience to work to know not to do this again.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to go. You have to go through that sometimes because you are younger and you don't know, the ins and outs. And to be honest, there's not a lot of opportunities in the Louisville area for that kind of work, in-depth education for yourself. Okay, here's this experience that I'm going to have, but I'm not going to be able to just get this from anybody. You might even get it where you've not paid anything at all.
Yeah.
Or you might get it through a theater that's paying you under $10 an hour.
Hey, that was my other job.
Honestly, though, some of the jobs that you've taken that I was like, oh yeah, that's actually what my degree set me up for. Watching you take them and watching you it wasn't your world anyway, like you said, but watching you go through those things, I was like, man, I just, it's not mine either. I saw what was happening and I knew that it wasn't right.
Yeah. If so facto,
but there's not a lot of opportunity.
Theater does not pay well.
Theater does not pay well.
And it stinks. Because the worst part, I worked for the Louisville Ballet for a season and a half and it was great. And I got so many skills from there. But everybody in my costume shop multiple degrees, masters. I worked for $9.75 an hour. And that's it.
Let's just let that dead air show the jaw drop.
Yeah. And I had a degree. I had a BFA at that time. And there was another girl in my class that had a theater degree as well from IU, who we were the same position, had the same amount of money. And there was another person in there that had a master's in costuming. She was a little above us, was not making the same. And there was other people in there that had masters that had so many years of experience. All of us were such low pay, but we wanted to do it because that was where we wanted to work. And we didn't want to move to New York. You know, we were working at
but just think about
very well-established place.
Absolutely. And I mean, well respected. And when you tell someone you work there, of course, like they're like, wow.
You worked on the Sugar Plum Fairy? Yes, I did.
But think about what you just said, like all these, amazing people and like have master's degrees, have multiple years of experience. And
the college debt in that costume shop was insane.
How can you even...
We couldn't.
You can't pay your college debt with that kind of like salary. Like, what the heck? That is so crazy.
Because going into it that it's a high turnover place because of it. And you're like, no, I really want this to work out. But there's no way I could have made it work out. There was no way.
Yeah. Ugh. But you left there and you went and worked at the wig company.
I left there and started working for my parents again. Right. But through that, I started going back to school. And then I got a second degree in graphic design that I talked about earlier that I wanted to know.
And you did social media for your dad owns a company. It's like a multi-generational company at this point. And
I did social media for them. I got that up and running for them. And it worked out great. But at that point, I never thought that was going to be my job because I was still on I'm a costumer, I'm a maker, I'm a seamstress. That's the hustle I need to be in.
Yeah, not like in the computer world, but in more of like a tangible...
And I was just like, I'm good at it because I do it for my cosplay stuff in general. Like it's really not that hard. It's second nature to me because I do it all the time already. But why I didn't have that just click right there, I could have saved me time. But then I started working for another maker company in the realm that I liked, which was theater, but it was a small business. I started working for a custom wig company in town. We made handmade wigs.
Yeah.
And it was a skill set I had to relearn.
I can't even tell you guys the times that she sent us these like terrifying dolls that were like ventriloquist dolls.
We would make wigs for ventriloquist dolls. Yes.
And our group chat was like freaking out.
It was very funny because they were very horrific looking. But it was a great job and it paid very well. But I mean, it paid enough to where I was like, a theater job where I'm making something and I can eat. That was the level. But then I was like,
I can do a little bit extra now.
Yeah, I can do a little extra now, but I didn't have any growth there because it was a small person team of 5. The next stage up was owner.
Yeah.
I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I loved those girls and it was great. But for me to make more money, which is what I wanted to do, I had to leave.
Yeah.
And now that also came during the middle of a pandemic when everybody was doing the same. I was a part of the great, was it resignation?
Yeah.
Great leave, the great exit
of
2020.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The great resignation.
And then I
think it was like 4 million people like a month or something like that were like switching and leaving jobs.
I left that job in August of last year, August of 2021. I applied for the speed job. Like around Derby of 2021. So it took me a long time for me to realize this is not what I want to do. And I was working from home completely full time. And I was like, this is miserable.
Right.
I need to go into an office space. I want to do this. And so I pivoted to, I was like, what I think I can do is social media. Let's give it a shot. And I did. And now I'm here. Yay.
Well, it's hard when you're creative. Like personally, one of the best things that owning my own business over the pandemic was that I had my own physical space that I could go to that was separate from my home.
Oh, I never realized how important that was until the pandemic hit me.
Well, because you making your cosplays, you're sewing all the time. You have this amazing like loft that's in like
I have a great space. I have a great space to do what I want to do, but like being there all the time really stunk.
Yeah, because now you're doing your daily work in the same space as you're doing like your creative like extra.
There was no time I could be away. I was just constantly from work. I would get up, walk 10 paces and sit on the couch and I'm done. I'm like, wow, this was miserable.
Sew all day, basically like sew the hair like into the wigs, like making wigs all day long where your hands are hurting, you're hunched over. And then you're going, after work to continue to be working on your cosplays, which is sewing and leaning over and using your hands. Girl, you need like 1,000 massages right now.
I'm working on it. That's why yoga is important in my life again. But also just getting up and going and walking to work because I can walk to work from where I live. I've already lost weight from it.
That's
just
awesome that you can walk there.
Yeah, it's great. Now I'm kind of like, it, don't want to leave this place because I could walk to work.
Like we made that walk because I used to live in this loft, you guys.
You did. You lived there for a short amount of time.
I did. Like during the last year of college when I was like opening that first store, I like lived there for I don't even know. It was kind of like part-time that I was living there. But
Ryan was he living in Columbus?
Yeah. So Ryan was living in Columbus, Indiana, which is like, I don't know, like an hour or maybe a little bit over.
Yeah, about an hour and 15 from Louisville.
Yeah, I was thinking that. And at that time, the bridges were shut down because of they were building the bridges we have now.
The traffic was stupid.
Oh, hours I spent. And I was doing my practicum. So like I had 450 hours that I had to do during one semester to complete my American Sign Language Interpreting Studies degree. And that was like over 30 hours a week if you like broke it down. For free, obviously, because that's like your internship and learning and everything.
No money.
No money. Great experience because I got to be with like 10, I think it was 10 different interpreters. Maybe it was like 8, but it was like a lot of different interpreters, see how they worked and be in different situations because being an interpreter, you have to have a lot of general information about a lot of things so that you can help someone communicate, to someone with another language.
So much before you can really start working.
Yeah, like I was in hospitals and court. I wasn't like a court interpreter, but
you did some theater shows too.
I had like a true crime experience with a deaf man that was on trial.
Oh,
like
man.
That's
a fun story.
Oh, it was actually really cool, but also
it's $3 on your Patreon. You'll hear the story.
We'll get to that next. But yeah, there was just so much like interesting things. I met so many people and I was in classrooms and so many different places. I was in FedEx at like 1 a.m. at one point because somebody was working there and like had an interpreter. So there's just, anywhere that you could be, like obviously a deaf person can be and like might need an interpreter to just communicate about a job or communicate about medical stuff or whatever. And it was so incredibly interesting, but I could not drive I was living half the week with Ryan in Columbus and then half the week with you because I was also opened the store during that time.
Yeah, there was no way you weren't making any money to where you could have really afforded to go back up so much because gas was really expensive and then the traffic was bad. 3
hours of traffic I spent and I missed appointments multiple times because I was trying to come from Columbus to Louisville.
You had to live with me and
stuff like that. Yeah. I'm not doing any of that. And I said, hey, Amanda.
And I just had an open room because my other roommates moved out. It was good.
It was great timing because I really, really needed it. And at the time I could walk to where I was interpreting, which is a high school like right next to U of L.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of nice too because parking could be confusing. I don't know if I walked every day, but listen, it's not that far.
No, it's not that far. Everything was pretty close.
But weather in Louisville is unpredictable. So we're just going to understand that. But yeah, it was just a really interesting time. But yeah, that loft is amazing. But I could understand like my husband was dealing with that, especially during the pandemic. Like he is like, I need to leave the house today. Yeah. And I was like, okay, let's leave the house today. But just what was really great is that I didn't personally have to experience that. I think I sewed from home for like a couple of weeks, maybe a month. And I did have a separate space because it was in a previous home we were renting where I could make masks oh my God, I made thousands and thousands of masks, which actually stole my creativity.
Stole a lot of people's creativity.
Absolutely.
I did not. I was not on the mask train because I remember being like, I don't know what people need and I don't want to give somebody something that's going to hurt them because we had so much, we didn't have any knowledge.
Yeah, the information was
there was nothing.
Sparse.
And I remember people being like, don't use quilted fabric because the weave is off or something like that. And I'm like,
this is too open. That's too close. And
now
I'm like,
I think we're just like, let's put your hand on your face and just walk through. There are a group of people, you're fine.
Like 2 years later, it's still here, y'all. We're still dealing with it. Like
attitudes have changed a little bit, though.
Yeah.
Like I remember,
now we have vaccinations and stuff too.
I mean, I remember carrying around a Ziploc bag, putting my mask in the Ziploc bag because I didn't want the mask to touch anything. Now I'm just like, I'll throw it in my bag. I do not care.
You're lucky if you get washed.
I am vaccinated.
The amount of makeup on the inside is definitely protecting me from the virus even more.
Oh, totally.
Like the full protective covering.
Plus the amount of foundation that's on it. It's an extra layer of thickness.
Yeah, like you can't breathe through that. No. Like no germs can fit through this.
Because I can't breathe. I'll pass out, but can't give me COVID.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. No, it's just kind of interesting though that you didn't have the chance to like leave and like go do that. So when you wanted to, switch up your career and make some more money,
but did the masks help you financially?
No. Honestly,
really?
Honestly, listen, I went from one day because I took probably 3 weeks to a month to really be okay with making them and feeling comfortable, like you just said.
Yeah, because you started making them after I made my first round for like family and friends, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, maybe Amanda, will you make me one too? And then I was like, dumb, I can fucking make them. I don't need to ask my bestie to do that. But also like, elastic was a massive shortage.
You couldn't find elastic.
You couldn't find anything.
You had a lot of product.
And literally I had a collection come out for my birthday when I was, I guess, 31 at the time. And like the day right with that collection, I launched masks like a couple days later. And I made, thousands of dollars on the collection. It was great because it's the beginning of the pandemic. We didn't know how long it was going to last. We didn't know like if we were going to want to spend money on clothes that we wear outside of the house, which is what I provide with the New Black. So, or like the majority of it. But like, it was just kind of an interesting thing because I had, this massive push and this massive launch that felt so good. I was like, okay, we're going to make it through this. Like, it's fine. And then a few days later, I launched masks and I didn't stop making masks for probably 4 months straight.
Yeah, that's all everybody wanted.
Yeah. They were like, oh, thanks so much for my like great skirt or great dress. But guess what? Now I need 14 masks.
But you did fill a need that was needed.
Yeah, to be honest, more than anything, I just feel like proud that in this moment of our history and like in this, like I was able to use a skill set that I had, previous to it to make a really good product. I was really proud of my masks. I made my own system to be able to make them, faster than I saw other people doing it. I created my own version of it. And in that way, it was like creative. But then the thousands and thousands of them later when, it was really just me and Adrienne that were sewing in our space at the time. It was like she would cut them and she would cut thousands. And or she had cut thousands over the time. And then I was like watching TV, turning them all inside out, cutting elastics and little links. Like, it was just
so much.
Way too much.
So much.
Way too much. But no, financially it didn't because the material was at an elevated price point. The amount of time it took us to make them and the amount that I also donated. To make sure.
Do a lot of that too.
Yeah, I donated them to lots of medical facilities and I donated them to lots of protests that were going on in Louisville. And I'm more proud that I was able to do those things through it and that just simply I was able to survive as a business during that. That was the more exciting part for me. So I just felt helpful.
But profit,
no.
And
I'm not, I think I used to be like, it was fine. And maybe fight my way through that and try to even just pretend just for my own sanity. But now I'm just like, no, you guys, let's just not pretend. And you know how much elastic I have now? I have so much extra shit. I mean, I could make thousands more, just from everything that came so much later than it was supposed to. So through the pandemic, you were working at the wig company and you were ready to switch it up. So you applied for this job. It was amazing that
It was a long shot.
Got the job though. You killed it. You got this job, dream job.
Yeah, apparently I'm really charming.
I mean, so charming. Charming.
I won the job. I won. It kind of felt
in a way.
It kind of felt like, I won.
I mean, yeah.
I beat other people. And then for a job that I did not have a degree in. That helped me back. But because of that, I got a new tax bracket.
Yay!
That's the best way to describe it. That I got in a new tax bracket, got insurance.
Yes.
That I, all this fun stuff that I can now be like,
the things that we thought we were going to have when we graduated college.
Yeah.
Really.
And at 33, right? Yeah. 33 years old, I finally am to a spot to where I am comfortably can say financially stable.
Oh my gosh.
Which is amazing to say. And just also
snaps.
I tried to be I should have hit this maybe 10 years ago. And I'm like, no, it was right out of college. I needed to find myself. And cosplay was always there for me. And I was finding myself through that, but that was never a way that I wanted to make my money from.
Right.
And I would say the majority of not so much now. Everybody's really shifted. But a lot of my friends in the cosplay world, that was what they wanted to make their money from.
Right.
And I respect them for it. But I had this gut feeling that I was like, it's never going to work for me.
Yeah, that is very different than a lot of people that you know. So it's just that gut feeling though. You just wanted your kind of creative expression to be a little bit more separate.
Yes. Yes. I mean, ideally, I wanted my dream job to be this amazing costume designer and do all these amazing things and making hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that was never going to happen. And in the realm of cosplay at that time, and still right now, it's very hard to make it a livable financial without having support from someone else. Now, I was very lucky that I did have support from my family. And more I got into my cosplay career, the more my numbers grew, the more my social media was getting more, and I was getting fans.
Yeah.
I was starting to have people that were ready to support me financially, but not in a weird way that you're probably thinking. Because a lot of people, there's a stigma in my community that it is sexy girls wearing sexy outfits. And a lot of my friends do that. And that's totes fine. but that was not my jam.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I don't need fan money to help me make my outfits because they're expensive.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. And to make everything, it's expensive, but I don't need it.
Right.
I mean, all of the money that I was making for my job was just going back into cosplay at the time. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like, oh, I can save for a house.
Yeah, you were happy to have it as your hobby and have your like creative exploration.
Yeah. And so one of the things we wanted to talk about on this podcast was, I mean, I don't do what Amanda does. Jedimanda is not a business, it's a brand. I'm a personality making things that you follow. But if you want to help me out financially, you're available. And I do that through like tipping. I do that for people buying my book.
Like there are ways that you're, you know, bringing in money to help this brand grow.
Absolutely. And as a fan, people want to do that.
Right. Like they want to support you and they are happy.
I never had the idea. I was like,
to put that forward.
Why? Like I never out of my, because I didn't. I'm not saying like I didn't follow anybody and give them some money here and there, but like I never was like out of my way wanted to help a person artist level wise to make something. I would just, you know, buy art or just be like, yay, share a thing on Instagram. But there's people out there that want to help you. And there are ways that you can allow that.
So explain, I guess, a little bit more towards this idea of like tipping. Like how does it work? Because it's all online and I've seen the like Ko-fi stuff, but I don't know all of it. So how did you like learn about it first?
Cosplay community.
Okay.
I mean,
so other people were doing
it. This came about around the time of Patreon. A lot of people, well, actually back it up. To make money in cosplay, you either had to have, you know, tons of followers. I'm talking in the millions. And you're making it off ad revenue on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or you're just having people send you money. Or at the time, people had print shops. And you would buy prints of our outfits, like in our beautiful photography that's done. You would give us $15 per print. We would send you the print signed. And that was where a lot of people made their money. And I had a print shop and I made a good amount of coin. But all that went back into my cosplay. Like this never went into my life fund. This was all just recycled into costume making, which is what I wanted because that financially made me able to have a bad job.
Yeah.
And I can,
your job didn't have to pay for your hobby. You were able to like support yourself enough with that and with your fans and family too.
But the money I was bringing in, I mean, I'm not millions of followers deep. So the money I was bringing in was buying like the wigs or the shoes or some of the fabric, you know? So that started, but then Patreon hit. And I feel like most of the people on this would know what Patreon is.
Yeah, I think everybody's heard of it for sure.
Subscription service where you follow an artist, you give them money per month. A lot of cosplayers flocked to that because you could now put your content that you're putting online for free behind a paywall and people can pay for it. And that's cool, but it also started a big riff in the cosplay community. It was like, why are you hiding? Why are you hiding? Because cosplay in itself is a community and we all share ideas on how to make stuff and how to do stuff. Like it's just inherently there. But a lot of those people...
was a little bit like gatekeeping.
It was gatekeeping and no one likes that word, especially in a fandom community. Like, do not gatekeep. And I personally don't like to gatekeep. Like I will always share how I made something.
Yeah.
The only thing I can't share is if like you want a pattern, you can't have it. I'm not selling it. It's not available. I'm not going to give it to you.
It's not for sale.
No, it's not for sale.
Because that's a tangible thing.
It's a tangible thing.
Like having that literal like paper piece to cut out your your paper pattern to cut out your costume. Like that only fits you.
Yeah, it only fits me. And there are a lot of cosplayers and costume makers out there that do sell their patterns. You can, but they'll have that available. There's a lot of us that don't. And a lot of people come into my DMs and just outright ask.
Yeah, they're like,
can I have it? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, why would you assume? But
also that's because your perspective on it is different than the people that are making it like their daily income comes from those things.
Exactly.
So they are putting time, effort, energy into creating a product that is for sale.
It is for sale.
So interact when you need that kind of thing with that kind of a person.
But also don't assume that every person that's making costumes is that.
Not everyone's going to be available for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you obviously already have a lot going on, full-time job.
Yeah.
Like this, we're saying it like as a brand, and I've said hobby a few times, but like it is majority of like your time outside of work.
It's half my life, practically.
Yeah, every time I talk to you, you're like, I'm making this one, I'm doing this, and I'm like,
it's half my life,
wow.
and I still enjoy it. That's what shocks me. I figured by now I'd be like, screw this, but no, I still enjoy it because I am such a nerd that I need to do these things, and I genuinely love going to conventions, and I also guest at these conventions, and that's a moneymaker. But that is a very rare 1%.
Yeah.
Because you have to know people who know people who know people to get into that spot.
Gotcha.
Sometimes there's an application at a company and they'll invite you in. but that might not guarantee a pay.
Well, and you can also win costume contests.
You can win contests, and that gets you clout for other conventions to invite you in to pay you.
You literally did have like a Happy Gilmore, like massive check moment.
Oh yeah. For costume contests, you win money, but that's prize money. That's not salary.
Absolutely. But that's just a fun.
I know, it was a Publishers Clearinghouse moment.
Yeah. Like, who doesn't want one of those moments? Like, I saw you win that. And I was like, oh my God.
It was really fun. It was very fun. I won a very prestigious contest, and I got $1,500 for it.
And I think like, as we're, talking through this, like you won those because you take all this time, you have all this dedication to your craft, to your skill, to your trade. And like, it's so interesting. And, sometimes people feel really like so much shame or guilt around, especially as like a creative person, like it's hard for me. I mean, we were just
talking. Should you be making money off your hobby? What is the definition of hobby?
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like, for me as an artist, I was like, okay, well, am I going to create a hobby or am I going to have a business?
Yeah. You have to figure that out first.
Oh gosh. You have to know what direction.
Stuck. Yeah.
Absolutely. And even like in either way, though, I think of it sometimes like I felt guilt or shame. And sometimes, it still comes over me sometimes of like, my entire family has like provided me financial support at some point to be able to perfect my skills and I've had 6 businesses over time. So like to be able to like learn and craft what I want to be doing in the future, that financial support like weighed really heavy on me. And obviously I've had, hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue come in that helped support that. And I was able to pay them back. And like now we're all good. I don't owe anybody money. It's so fucking
sound off the confetti.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful now.
But it's that,
because it's that relief. Oh. But if you're going through those moments of that, that guilt around asking for it or having someone help financially support you, I was saying to Amanda earlier that I think it's interesting that so often we're like willing to help like an athlete.
Yeah.
We're willing
Nike is willing to sponsor LeBron. I don't know if that's true. That's completely sports and a sport. They're willing to sponsor to help, but
they're crafting their skill. They have to be dedicated. They have to be diligent about their practices, and they have to spend hundreds of hours doing it. Like we did this, like something very similar within those aspects.
It's short form investing.
Yeah.
If you look at it.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
You want to invest, you want to make more money, put it into a fucking
stock. I am a stock. I am publicly traded stock.
Listen, we started out on Guilt and Shame around money, and now we're our own stocks.
We're our own stocks. This is what happened.
That's how fast.
Kind of, if you want to look at it, because it is people investing.
Yeah.
Because they're investing in the art that I'm going to eventually make.
Yeah. So they have to believe in your skill set and your dedication and your commitment. They have to believe in your vision.
That do that. And that is the people that pay $2 a month for your Patreon of whatever. The specific one I use is Ko-fi, and that is Ko-fi. Sounds like coffee, but that's the cuteness about it is that
Ko-fi.
Ko-fi is a literal online tip jar. You can set up I recommend this for every artist out there. I swear, no matter what you do.
I don't even have one. I should probably get one.
You should. And it's really easy. It's a very easy way for somebody to give you some money. And it has to be, I see $2 or $3 minimum. I think it's one of those.
Like buying you a coffee.
Yeah, they're like buying you a coffee and supporting your art that you're doing or whatever project, or they just genuinely like you. And it's a great way for somebody to just help you get there without having to sign up for a Patreon subscription or sign up for a subscription, give that mentality of, I owe them money per month. Yes. Yeah. So you can do that now on Ko-fi. They have a subscription set up, but most people just tip you. How I do it is that like, I'm to the point now to where people want to give me that and they've asked me how, and I'm like, okay, here's the option. I'm not going out of my way to make you give me money because I need it. Right. I don't. I can make a costume. I don't need your funds, but it's really fun to have someone give me some money. They can follow that Ko-fi wall. I don't really update it as much as I should, but they already follow me on Instagram so they can see me making, and they have an investment in my costume. If it's $2 or $3, it's still an investment. Yeah. And they enjoy that. And at the end, I actually write everyone's name that has donated and that has given me their name, no matter how much money, into my costume in some way, shape, or form. So like your investment is now you're like in my outfit. It's kind of weird. And people can come up to me at conventions when they see me and they're like, my name is this. I gave you a Ko-fi. And I'm like, here's your name on my cape.
Yeah.
And, something like that. Like, check it out. So that's an incentive. Not all artists on Ko-fi do an incentive, but it's a
great way for you to show that your appreciation back for them, and then
but that's also the guilt and shame that I put in my head because I think I have to give them something. I
have to. There's no other option.
I can't just be like, thanks for the money, bye. But that's just how I think. And that's how a lot of people do as well. But there's a lot of people out there that are like, thanks for the money, bye. Like, and that's okay. But it's maybe my Midwestern brain.
That's, I mean, a little bit, but I think it's also in your mentality around it being, you know, this brand or hobby versus business. Yeah. You know, like you're in it for the community. You're in it because you love that and you love being a part of that and you love supporting that. And in your way, like accepting money for, you know, to create a vision that they follow along with you and like watch you make it and do all these things. Like it also like shows your appreciation back to them. And in a way, like that exchange is definitely, I think, more community based.
It is more 100%.
You know
and it also keeps it a hobby for me.
Yeah.
Because the minute I switch over to a per month subscription, I am constantly thinking about how I can make that person worthy to stay around. And that is a full-time business mentality. And I have several friends that is their life. That is and they do very well. They have very good Patreons. And I'm proud of them. But I could never switch to that.
Yeah. It's just not what you're going for.
Nope.
I mean, and none of that is wrong or anything.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay to keep a hobby, guys.
It's totally
you don't have to turn all of your crafts into, and I tell my parents this constantly.
I'm so bad at that, Amanda.
I know.
So bad at that.
And that's a lot of people because that's also just what we see online. We see someone succeeding at some art and then eventually they're going to make that their business or that is that they're selling. And also it's just a lot of people are genuinely think their art is cool and they want a piece of it.
Yeah.
And I think besides selling your product, a best way for someone to help make that bridge connection is to like tip, is to have a Ko-fi, is to open up a PayPal link or Venmo or something like that to where thank you for the love, but this is just a hobby. If you're willing to give me your hard-earned cash, here's a way.
Yeah. Here's the way to do that without...
I think that wipes off some of the guilt for me.
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. And I feel like that. And I think some of the guilt, like we were talking about before, is around, you know, people like investing in you. Like, you know, we've had like friends, family, like my husband has financially supported me for many years. And I feel like, you know, there's always this extra layer of like, are they going to, like, if I'm not working right now towards this thing, especially with like owning businesses and you're in financial investment, I'm going to return to you. Like this bit, like my mindset is different than what we're talking about for yours. And like, how do I even sit with you at Christmas dinner? And it's like, okay for me to be off right now and not mention something about it or like not let you know like, hey, it's okay. Or like, you know, if I was late on a payment, like the amount
I also think that's just inherent capitalism that really hurts us too.
Absolutely. Like, I have to be hustling. I have to be doing all this. Like you said, like this. Your hobby can remain your hobby. Like it is okay.
It's a hard conversation to have with your brain sometimes because you just think, well, if I did this, I could make more money. I could do all this, but you don't know what comes to the other side of that.
Absolutely. And I mean, so many times, like I've done Kickstarters multiple times and I've given rewards back. Like we're kind of talking about with Ko-fi a little bit is like, you know, you've given something back to someone and it's just an exchange. And that made me feel like a little bit less of that. Like, okay, well, you gave me something and I gave you something. Yeah. And like, that's okay. Yeah. That feels right. Yeah. But then I've done ones that were Kiva, which is like a 0% interest loan to get my Betty the Bus started.
Yeah, old Betty.
when I did the mobile boutique. And that was $10,000 and I had to raise that through social crowdfunding, but it was an investment platform. So those people were returned their money slowly over time, basically. So like, I think I had like a 3-year term and I want to say I paid like $300 a month or something. I don't remember exact numbers, but basically they got, you know, a small portion of their investment back each month, depending on how much they gave originally. And like, because you have this like social component in your business of like, all these people are relying on me to give their money back. Like it adds that pressure.
There's a lot of pressure. I've never had to feel that.
It is intense.
Well, I mean, I do. If someone donates a lot of money, if I have a big project that I'm doing, and my goal on my Ko-fi, because with Ko-fi, besides just having an online tip jar, which anybody can give you money anytime, you can set up a project. And it basically,
I was wondering.
Yeah. So for example, I just finished one for my Scarlet Witch. I had a $300 project to like, if we reach that, we've covered, I think that was all of the fabric plus some silicone material. I think that was like what I was like, I need some help on, guys, because it was really expensive and it was a project I wanted to do. And people were like, hey, I want to support you doing this. I was like, here we go. Let's start this. So I set that project limit to 300 and I reached that. Great. And then it could still go beyond that. Like people could still, I didn't stop accepting money, and people were giving me more because I just,
then
at
you
one
can
point,
get like more stuff. I
mean, yeah. And I did. It was great. But with Ko-fi, people can watch that project, hit that goal and go beyond some.
It's kind of like that with Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But you have to hit it for the project that you're talking about. Right. Do you?
But for Ko-fi, you do not. No,
okay,
nothing happens. Yeah. It's literally just there for visuals.
Yeah.
But also it's really, really helpful for social media because that's how I gain people giving me money. Is like when one person gives me a Ko-fi or a coffee, you get like a cute little screenshot email and I'll screenshot that, share that to Instagram with a link. And then somebody else will do it. And it's a chain reaction. And then once that starts happening, I start screenshotting the project bar and I'm like, oh my God,
how close we
are there, guys.
Yeah.
Like I'm like only $20 away. And then one person will just give me $20 and boom. So it is definitely like a chain reaction for my end versus people just giving me money all the time.
Yeah.
So that's how it works for me.
I like the project-based kind of idea. And then they know exactly, like you said, you put their names in these costumes.
They know exactly what they're paying for, giving me money for, like, and then it goes into my PayPal.
Do you find that like some of those people are really dedicated and give to every single one? Like in my collection launches, there are people that buy every single time.
There's a handful of names that I recognize that will give me funds no matter what range for every single project I do.
But it like relieves that stress for you around like not having to do the monthly stuff to have the coffee or Ko-fi instead.
Yeah. And not every one of my costumes I use Ko-fi for. They're usually for the big boys because the funds are just really expensive.
Your Anastasia dress, how much was that, you said?
Gosh. I honestly think in materials alone, it was at least, I know I said in the car, I had my Ko-fi goal, I think was only to $250. And that covered some fabric cost and that covered the rhinestones.
Yeah, the rhinestones alone you said were like the $250.
It's really hard to explain this in audio, but I made a dress based off of Anastasia from the 1997 animated film.
Once Upon a December.
Yes. And it's very bougie. I basically redesigned her final dress that she wears. It's the pink and yellow nightmare. And it's really funny that I say this is coming from a person who dresses very alternatively.
You do princess.
I love princessing.
You do princess
It is so fun because it's 100% the opposite of what I normally do. And I like that change.
Yeah.
Because it's character. You step into different characters. That's what cosplay is about. I get to be this person. I get to do this thing and be completely different and then revert back into my Wayne's World style. Which is normally what I look like. But it's true. I have a funny joke I'll tell you after I talk about the money for Anastasia. I'll tell you why I say Wayne's World.
I never thought of Wayne's World, but you're so right.
100%. 100%. And so I think my goal was $250 and it covered fabric and rhinestones. And I met that. And beyond that, I got more money for things. But also I think materials only, that thing was at least $500. Also, it took me 6 months to make it.
Right.
Do the math.
6 months,
6 months to make it. And I made
your
every single thing.
crown lit up.
My crown lit up. I made my wig because that's also a skill that I have.
Yeah.
I made the dress. I made the underpinnings. It was a 9-layer petticoat. It was a cage crinoline underneath that. The dress itself had a massive train and there's rhinestones all over. It is glitter. It is a disco ball.
Yeah.
And from that, I won regional champions at C2E2, the Crown Cosplay of Championships. I said that completely wrong, but basically it's like the Super Bowl for cosplay. Ipso facto, I won the regional, which was a huge deal. And I got a $1,500 check.
Yes.
Now, did that balance out in money and time? Probably not. That's the fun thing about cosplay contests. The amount of money you win never will ever cover the cost of whatever is winning.
Right. And that's why you have to enjoy it like you do. And that's why you're not making it this big business. However, your book sales and your those things, like that money, I'm sure is going towards you're saving for your first home.
Yeah.
So I feel like that kind of stuff is really, even though we're talking about it as a hobby, I think as an artist, we just have to remember that there's so many different ways to create income.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be stuck in your one medium.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like most of it is around content creation, like you're talking about.
Content creation, but it's not always a business.
Yeah.
That you're selling a tangible thing, whether it's knowledge or a coffee mug.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways to make money.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to figure it out.
Well, and even with your, like what you said with Ko-fi and what we've talked about with Patreon and everything, like there are going to be people that are out there that care and that want to support you.
Yeah.
And I think just this simple idea, and like it's so difficult. And Amanda and I both said, like, we deal with this now and we're over a decade in each in our, creative endeavors. So it's like you have to at least be able to. There's this phrase I love that's like, when the fear doesn't leave, you have to do it scared. And as an artist, like it's hard to think of like, I have to create something out of nothing, out of thin air most of the time. Yeah. And I have to create this vision.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I have to be able to prove that I can do it. And it's hard to move past your own. Not only do I want to be this creative, human being, but I need to have enough funds to be able to do it. I need to be able to have enough support mentally, financially, just like across the board to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So in order to make those things happen,
you need support.
You need support. And you need to be able to get past your own guilt or shame or worry or anxiety around it.
Yeah.
Of course, like you could be, working a regular full-time job and you could be supporting yourself that way. Yeah. Of course. But I'll say if you want to make like a massive shift, getting over that little bit of guilt or shame is going to be able to move you forward, and recognizing that these people are here to support you for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be able to find those ways. And what I think that you've shown us is that there's so many different ways to be able to do that.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many different ways I've accepted funding from my business and from my families, through Kickstarters, through Kivas, through PayPal, through like I've done lots of ones.
I'm trying to think of other ways besides like
through revenues. Like there's so many different ways.
You just have to figure it out.
You have to see what's comfortable for you too.
It's so different for everybody, no matter what you're doing.
And we've both talked about how like in the beginning, like when we're getting started. So if you're at that point, like you're not going to be worried about these like large investments at that point. You might just be exploring a hobby and enjoying that. And then if you're like, okay, well, I do want this to be a business. I do want to create something out of this. Like maybe I am comfortable, accepting some kind of funding to get that started. Like that's an important step to be able to get past in the artist world. I feel like that is very difficult for all of us.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's so hard, you guys.
It's so hard, but it's fine.
So hard.
It's fine. I'm sitting here as a brand. You're sitting here as a business, and we're both making money.
Yeah. We're making money. Yeah. It might take a little bit longer.
But my money is not the type of your money that you're making either. Like my money is recycling back into what I'm doing as an art, But now it is also...
Trust me, my revenues are going right back.
but like my book sales and stuff and some small ad revenue from YouTube is now going towards a house fund.
Yes.
Like I'm now able to make that decision to where, okay...
You're basically...
I'm fine now. Let's shift over here.
You're still like, it's still side hustling a little bit.
It is.
I understand your perspective is in that, but it is leading you, these efforts you're putting in are leading you towards
I'm not an LLC.
A future.
I'm not paying small business tax.
Yeah, I'm not in the same.
They can't find me yet, IRS.
Oh, trust me. I just paid so much fucking taxes, y'all.
I heard it's so bad on small businesses right now.
It's rough, y'all. It's rough no matter what, to be honest. But dealing with it and learning that the government has really great payment plans when you just promise and stick to your promises that you're going to pay them back when you fuck it up. Like I did a million times already. Like it's like
thanks,
nothing.
USA, you got my back.
You got my back. Thanks, bro. Thanks, bro. I mean, I feel like there's definitely a lot of anxiety around all of that stuff too. And entering the artist world.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're going to be an artist and a business, it's complicated, and just get yourself some good
complicated, but also
advice.
Realize, especially if you post
CPA.
Your stuff online, realize there might be people wanting to help you out.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
It's okay to accept help.
Yeah.
And it's okay to fund it yourself too.
And it's okay to go out and ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just all fucking okay.
It's okay.
Like
no shame, no good.
We're just trying to remove that stress because trust me, like, I mean, if you want to keep doing it and it's that important to you, you'll find the way. Yeah. And if the fear doesn't leave, you got to do it scared. And like all they're going to do, my dad's favorite phrase, and I'm obsessed with this and it's literally shaped my life, is all they can do is say no.
That's true.
And that seems really scary at the beginning, especially if you're like in more of a desperate moment, which is not a time when I think you should be accepting funding in a desperate moment.
Yeah, no, because then it's not usually the right funding. Is different and things could go bad.
Absolutely. Yeah. But all they can do is say no. And no is simply a place where you can move through that. You can move past that in order to be able to find the yes.
Personally.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be personal. I've had to take a lot of time to remove myself personally from my businesses. And it has taken me years, but it is such a healthier place where I am now than I was before. Okay, so in closing, Amanda's my best friend.
I dress like Wayne's World.
She dresses like Wayne's World. Everything is going to be fine. And really, if you want to continue just talking about removing that shame or guilt or any kind of stress you're having around creating new things. I mean, being an artist and being a creative person doesn't always come with those skill sets. And remembering that the skill sets that you had to learn and train to be the artist that you are, there are skill sets in business that you just have to learn and train a little bit on too if you want to go that route. And if you want to keep it a hobby, do it.
Do it.
Do it. It's all good.
And you can still promote it online like it's a business, but it's still a hobby.
You could do whatever the fuck you want, guys. So let's just end it there. Okay. That's great. I love you. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. This was fun.
You want to tell people like how to follow you?
Yeah. Well, first off, hi, I'm Jedimanda. If I haven't said that once or twice before, I am literally online everywhere as Jedimanda, as in the Star War and the Jedi and the Manda. If you're interested in looking for my book, please search it. The easiest way to search it right now is through Amazon, unfortunately. But a lot of online places like Target and Barnes & Noble have it, but also your local booksellers. Go check out your local bookshop to go buy a book. Do it. It will help them. It will help me.
We'll figure out how to get into the wow.
Yeah, that would be great. My book's called Creative Cosplay. And I'm Jedimanda. Thanks, Amanda.
Yay. Thank you, Amanda.
Yay.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
If you want to put more money into the wallets of women like we do, then check out our website, thewomanownedwallet.com. And we can't wait to continue the conversation on our social media. So definitely follow us on our Instagram @womanowned.wallet and on TikTok @womanownedwallet. You can support us by following our podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify. And don't forget to leave us a review. Thank you for listening to Woman Owned Wallet, the podcast.